Hey, head coach Clemente Bonilla here with Capistrano Valley Christian Baseball, and this is the CVCS Baseball Podcast. Super excited for episode 9. We have a great guest and a great friend of mine, Seth Etherton. Seth was a 3-time All-American at USC. He's a local boy out of Dana Hills High School, and like I said, 3-time All-American at USC. He was the Pac-12 Player of the Year. He was an All-American. He was also drafted in the first round, and then played 15 professional seasons, has 7 pro coaching seasons under his belt. Just an amazing resume. He's also been a Division I college coach for a couple different institutions. Seth Etherton, welcome.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Hey, let's just dive right into the local boy thing. We're here at Capistrano Valley Christian School, which is right up the street from Dana Hills, where you went to school. What was your, high school experience? Obviously, you were a great pitcher. I've heard about that. Did you hit too? Were you two-way at Dana Hills?
I did, yeah. That was one of the things I took some pride in, and I worked hard at it until I realized that going to a Division I school like SC, that the bat just didn't really play with stepping up that kind of pitching.
Well, we all do what we can until we're told
can't do it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then obviously Dana Hills was with the pitching side of it. Did you have a big all CIF year? How did USC come about? Did they find you in the summer or?
Yeah, it's interesting. The landscape is so much different today. I remember it was the summer before my senior year, and that's when schools could, I believe, first time they could actually contact you. And I remember sleeping. It was 8 a.m. My mom came in and said USC's on the phone. I'm like, what? It was kind of surreal. I was naive to the point where I didn't really know a whole lot. I was young. I was 16, and for the most part, it was just a process. I was so green with this. I didn't know what to expect or how things were going. I like playing baseball, and where they saw me, I have no idea. But now years later, I talked to a bunch of people that had friends who were coaches at USC at the time, and they kind of told me a story how it all evolved. So it was just a lot of just conversations that were had, and then I was out playing some summer ball games here and there, and kind of just word of mouth. And then kind of how the recruiting process goes. Mm-hmm. They come out and they check you out probably a few times, and just kind of evolved with that. But I had no idea.
Yeah, I remember too. We're close in age. I was at El Toro High School in the 90s as well, and so in those days, the recruiting process was definitely different than it is now. They weren't able to contact you till the summer going into your senior year, and you weren't able to sign a letter of intent until that November of your senior year. Then you commit to USC. Did you have a great senior season at Dana?
Pretty good. I think individually, yes, I did. We underachieved. We were pre-ranked number 1 in the county coming in. We had a good transfer from Chris Toomey. We had Scott Maynard coming through. We had a whole clan of guys that kind of worked their way up to being seniors in the baseball division. So we had a really strong team. We just underperformed. It was sad, but personally, yeah, I had a good year.
Okay. And then also, I heard you say you were 16 when that process started. So did you graduate high school as a 17-year-old?
Yeah, I graduated at 17, walked on campus at USC at 17.
Wow, which is also not very normal anymore in today's climate. A lot of kids will do the holdback year, so they'll be 19 or closer to 19, in some cases even closer to 20 before they get on a freshman year. So that's a little different. So what was it like for you just moving up about 50, 60 miles up the road on to USC from Dana?
It was really my first time away from home. As for probably most students that leave the house for the first time going into college. I was on my own. I had some friends up there that were baseball players. We all lived together. And it just kind of took off from there. It was just one of those things where my summers were now consumed with playing summer ball. Being a student athlete at USC takes a lot of time, takes a lot of planning. There's a lot of stress. And I was just so fortunate that we had such a great group of guys that, again, worked our way through. And I was very fortunate, again, to have guys like the Ben Tuckers who were seniors that year, and Jeff Jenkins, who's a Milwaukee Brewers Hall of
Mm-hmm.
Famer, and Gabe Alvarez and Chad Mullers, Jock Jones. I mean, I was just so thankful that I had those guys to kind of watch and how they did things. And, you know, as all freshmen should, you just kind of shut your mouth and do your thing and, you know, just watch and observe and learn how to control your time off. That was a big thing for me. And then the school's different. I mean, it's a university and they expect a lot and there's a lot expected of you. So it was a great learning experience. I learned a ton. But for the most part, it was just a great experience because of the people I was around.
That's so cool. Those are some big names too. I love hearing the names. I remember watching a lot of those kids. Well, they were young big leaguers when I was a kid growing up. So the fall of your freshman year, you must have made an impact because you ended up having quite a spring.
Yeah. Freshman year, it was interesting. You know, I'm trying to remember this a long time ago, but kind of breaking in, being, you know, eyes open, playing with 22-year-old men. And I don't know. I don't know where I was taught it or how I learned it, but I just was kind of a confident, just didn't really care a whole lot what other people thought, and I just went about my business. And I got to the point where I ended up being a weekday starter that year. I had some back issues, and I was out for a little bit. But then we got to the playoffs, and I was, next thing you know, I'm starting in a regional game against Fresno State at Fresno State. Then I'm coming in the College World Series as a freshman in relief. And it was, I mean, looking back at those experiences, I could never have thought that it would meant so much. But now it's like, wow, I was so thankful that I got those experiences because then I went to play in the Cape and playing the best of the best. And then they come back for my sophomore year. And then, you know, I had a nice little conversation with Coach Gillespie on the mound on a Tuesday night, I believe, or I don't know. It was at Fullerton for sure. But then he had some words for me. And
as Coach Gillespie could do.
Coach Gillespie, the scary, amazing, fantastic man he is, had some words for me. And, you know, before he passed, we sat and had lunch, and I told him about that story. He's like, no way, that never happened. I said, Skip, yes, it did. And but it changed my career, my whole outlook on how I went about my business. And from that point on, it was so focused and just prioritized in how I went about everything I did because of his words. And mainly, I think, because he did it in front of the rest of my teammates. So I got called out, and that was it for me.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that an old school coach like that, you could still really pull a lot of just great tips and experience from when you call out a guy, and if you do it in the right way, it could really change the trajectory of a player. And at the same time, it's a learning tool for the other player. Whoever was there, maybe it was the infield, the entire infield heard that. They probably had their trajectory change a little bit too. And they weren't even the subject of the conversation, but it was you. And I know alumni Parker Koss and Andre Antone have great stories about Gillespie as well. They played for him at UCI when he was still there. And just that's so neat that you bring that up. I want to backtrack, though, to the College World Series. So tell us, like, there wasn't super regionals yet at that point, was there?
No.
So you guys win your tough regional and get to the College World Series. Who did you guys open up with? What was that experience going to Omaha? Not a lot of people get to do that.
Yeah, you know, trying to think back who was in that World Series that year. Cal State Fullerton was there. Miami, that's when Alex Cora was their starting shortstop. Oklahoma had the Minor twins, I believe, Damon and Ryan Minor. So, it's a tough thing. I think I assume I have to think Florida State was there.
Okay. Do you remember who you threw against?
I came in against Miami. And then I believe I came in the championship game against Cal State Fullerton.
Nice.
I believe those are two appearances I had.
Did you guys win the national championship that year?
No, we lost in the final. The final to Cal State Fullerton. That was when Mark Kotze doing his thing with Jeremy Giambi was on the team, and they were loaded, and Augie Garrido put together a great team, and they were really good.
Yeah. That's so cool. What a neat experience. So then your sophomore year, you're an All-American, another great campaign. You were a runner-up for the Golden Spikes Award. Was that in the junior campaign?
Senior year.
Oh, your senior year.
Yep.
Okay. So tell me how the draft and how did you maneuver that? When did you start realizing that there's a possibility that you could make this a career post college?
I think after that freshman summer in Cape Cod, I had a good campaign. It was good, and I came into my sophomore year, and I didn't start off very well. But then that's when I had the discussion with Coach Gillespie, and then I went on to win every start in the Pac. I went 10-0 in the Pac, and things started happening, and I just started kind of realizing the confidence built again. And then off to the Cape I went and had another good campaign there. And then, I think physically and mentally I started developing a little bit more. Had a really good junior year. All-American again. I thought I was, everyone's, there's a lot of talk with pro scouts and things like that and about where I'm going to go get drafted. Well, they're saying second round. I dropped to the 9th. And disappointed, and I was drafted by the Cardinals, and it didn't feel right to me. I still felt like I had a lot to prove. At USC, I won a national championship. I wanted to do some things personally. I wanted to take that summer off and really dedicate time to get myself in the best physical and mental condition I can be in to come in. And I had, like I said, I had a chip on my shoulder. I had something to prove. When someone tells you can't do something, I took it as just like hey, this is an insult, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to use this fuel, and I'm going to get after it, and that's what I did. I was at the beach twice a day body surfing. I loved it. It was amazing during El Nino. I mean, the water was 70 to 74, and then I'd go lift by myself at Dana Hills High School. Had the keys there, and I just went and lifted. I got big and strong, and I was just a different dude physically and mentally walking to campus as a senior, and that's really what prepared me for the success I had that year.
Man, I love that story. So you really bet on yourself.
No doubt about it.
And it worked out. You won that bet. You ended up being a first round. What pick were you in the first round?
I was 18th overall in 98.
Man, how exciting is that? What was the organization that drafted you?
Angels.
The Angels. Oh man. So now they come to your home and you probably got some pretty big wheels sitting in the kitchen table with you and your parents. Were those conversations or negotiations pretty smooth? Did you sign right away, or did it take some time?
And that's it's interesting because now you look back at it for all these years ago. It was one of those things where I actually still had leverage even as a senior, and the Angels didn't hold me being a senior where I didn't have eligibility to go back to USC. They just said, "You're 21 years old, just like every other junior." So my age going in so young actually helped me because professional baseball is all about time. It's the time that you have to succeed to get to the big leagues. And even though I had 4 years of college experience, I was still the same age as a junior. So my clock really hasn't started yet, and which allowed me to, make the negotiations very smooth and easy. And they were very respectful to me and what I wanted. And it was really seamless. And the one thing that I was really thankful for is they didn't have me go to low A. They didn't have me go high. They sent me to double A in Midland, Texas in July, where it's about 117 degrees, and I didn't have a car. I'm walking to the stadium. It was just, it's you reminisce about it. It's like, man, what did I do? And like, what was I thinking? And it was just so cool because I failed there. I learned how to pitch in that kind of heat. It's just the minor league system is all about learning, and especially learning from your failures. And what I preach today is like, you're always going to be your own best pitching coach. No one can ever feel what you feel. No one can ever think what you think. So I learned, being pretty shy throughout my whole life, I learned how to communicate better. And that really helped me with my confidence and helped the coaches, help me, teach me about me. And so
that's so cool. I'm always talking to our kids on the CVCS baseball squad about just you can never communicate too much. I think communication is so key on the field, but even off the field, just having that ability to communicate and know where you're at, know how you feel, and know what they're thinking, and just put you in a better position to succeed. I also love the fact that you were 21 years old. That's something that gets overlooked in today's landscape. And again, it's such a difficult thing in today's world, especially to get drafted and to start that professional process. But they got to pick somebody. And when you are younger, that actually plays a lot better for you, where in today's world, so many people are doing the hold back repeat year and being 19 or closer to 20, which I think is is also a good thing, especially when you're playing collegiate baseball. I know college coaches, we'll get into you as a college coach and recruiting a little bit later, but like that landscape has changed where older is a little more stable, more proven. So it's not a bad thing to be older in the realm of NCAA, but it could still hurt you when you're trying to get into that draft.
Yeah, I think you have to produce at the age you need to produce. You know, if you're 19 years old, you're going in as a college freshman, you're going to be draft eligible the next year, maybe after your sophomore year. Well, you better make that sophomore year really good. You better have a really good summer. You better be, as a freshman, you better be mature among your experience, you know, because you're dealing with 18-year-olds, so you have a year on them. So I just think it is time issue. If you're going to take the extra year, fine, but just be ready to go. You don't have much time to waste because if you're not drafted after your sophomore year at the eligible time of your age, your back's against the wall. Yeah, it's going to be tough, especially with the limited 20 rounds these days. It's really, really difficult.
Definitely. So you and I share a 2003 Cincinnati Reds spring training. Although you were on the big league side, you were in big league spring training. I was in the minor league camp. That was my first spring training in 2003 with the Reds. What a crazy experience for me. Again, no car, flying out to Sarasota, 150 guys, and probably the best of best I've ever seen athletically and globally now too. We're not just dealing with people in the same country, but you signed with the Angels. What was that? I hadn't met you yet, but what was that time frame? How did you go from the Angels over those 3 or 4 seasons to being in big league camp with the Reds, where I came onto the scene and we kind of met for the first time?
Yeah. So I signed in 98 when played that summer. My first full season was 99. And then get into 2000 after a Puerto Rican winter ball season. I got into big league camp, and then I ended up getting called up in May of 2000. So I got through my rookie year of 2000 on the shelf. I was hurt my shoulder. I remember pitching in Cleveland, and I mean, it just wasn't coming out. And when you're dealing with Tomei, Manny Ramirez, Kenny Lofton, Roberto Alomar, it's like, oh my gosh, I had Jacobs Field back in the day and just getting killed. So I won the DL then. I did some rehab stuff. And then I remember I was with my now wife. It was December 10th, and I get a phone call saying I got traded to the Reds. It was the first day of winter meetings, and that's kind of how it went. It was that would have been the second year of Griffey coming over from Seattle, and that's what it was. So I went over to the Reds. I ended up having shoulder surgery. It took me 2 years to come back from. Again, another great learning experience. Got to hang out with Ken Griffey Jr. quite a bit because that's when he had his hamstring issues, the surgery. So we rehabbed together. Got to play with another Hall of Famer, Barry Larkin. And so we just kind of went through that, and I got through my shoulder issues. And 2003 is the first year I got back, and I got back to the big league. So that's kind of what it was. I stayed through 2004 and, became a free agent, and off I went.
Yeah, what a neat experience. I remember, seeing Ken Griffey Jr. getting some extra work into the cages. And then you might not remember, but our high A squad in Stockton, we won the California League in 2002. And so we were presented our A-ball championship rings at one of the spring training major league games. And so you guys were there. And I remember Griffey was like, "Come here, kid, let me see that ring." And, he's just a super nice guy.
So
and
cool.
then, of course, Barry Larkin was a grinder in that 03 spring training. He would come down to the minor league side late in the afternoons and get those little side infields, those half fields. And he would pull guys like myself. A couple of us would turn double plays, like take his feeds and things like that. And he was just, the guy was a beast. And I think he was already like 39 or 40 years old at that time.
Sure.
And it was just unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, it's amazing. Being with the Reds as a coach for 7 years, Barry's the same way. He still goes out there. He takes ground balls, takes the young players, and just he teaches. And he cares so much about players. And that's one thing, and I've told everyone this throughout my career, is like, if you're named one, who's the most professional teammate you've ever had, I'd say Barry Larkin by far. He cared so much. He treated everyone the same. He actually had interest in who you were as a person, and he just wanted to see you succeed. So he's such an amazing human being.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's just cool that we share some of those experiences of meeting certain people. So now after the Reds, why don't you just take us through how the rest of that path went?
Yeah, so 2003, I finished in the big leagues with the Reds after my shoulder surgery. And then 2004, I came in, probably had the best spring training of my life. I mean, I don't think I gave up a run, let alone even a couple hits. And they ended up sending me a AA. And I was confused. I asked for my release, and Tim Naring, the field farm director, is like, "No, we're not releasing you." So, anyways, I go to AA that year for 6 weeks. That's what he promised, and so then up to AAA again. Had finished off the year really well in AAA in Louisville. And then became a free agent, and that's when Billy Beane came. Started talking and calling, and it was between them and the Royals at the time, and the A's, they put out, a good offer, and it was a great time for me to, change my path a little bit, a fresh start, and went with the A's, and they were a fantastic organization. I was up and down for the big leagues that year with them. And then I became Rule 5 draft after that year. I get Rule 5 by the San Diego Padres because I originally signed with the Royals. And then didn't make the club, and then I go AAA. Then I get traded to the Royals to the big leagues in 2006. Make a few starts there, and then back down to AAA, and start having some elbow issues. Didn't know kind of what it was. I pitched through it a while, and then I just wasn't getting any jobs on the American side. And then Korea came knocking, and so 2007 I ended up going to Korea, and still pitched with my elbow issues, didn't really know what it was, and then got really sick over there. And my family was out there with me, and so we ended up coming home after probably May or June of that year. I was in the emergency room for I think 5 days.
What was it?
They didn't know. They scoped my stomach, did all these things, trying to figure out what it was. And until I got home, my father-in-law found out like all these symptoms that ended up being some sort of parasite. Which was like 3 or 4 week ordeal where, I mean, literally I couldn't hold food down, and it was really, really brutal.
I didn't know this story. Wow.
Yeah. And then I ended up getting healthy. Then I ended up signing with, the Marlins, and they send me AAA. I go there, and I make, I think, 1 or 2 starts, and then my elbow blew up, and it was done, and didn't know what was going on. And I ended up going back to Cincinnati, go see my team doctor over there, Dr. Kremchek, and he ended up doing a Tommy John surgery on me where he just said my ligament's been gone for probably 2 or 3 years. And I was basically pitching on just grit and not knowing exactly how I was doing it. And so he performed an amazing surgery, and he actually took it from my left hamstring. He took a tendon from my left hamstring. He said he triple wrapped it through my elbow, and it's double wide. He's like, you can go throw the ball as hard as you want for the rest of your life. You're good. And he was right on. 9 months later, I was back pitching in games. I tested out the Long Beach Armada up there in Long Beach. And,
the Golden League? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the Golden League.
Yep.
Yep. So Steve Yeager was the manager there, and everything went really well. So it's kind of just a test of where I was with it, and that went really well. Then I ended up doing a pro day at USC where the scouts were there, and I ended up signing with Arizona Diamondbacks. AJ Hinch signed me, who's a good friend of mine, and off I went there to AAA the next year in 2009 to Reno. And, the ups and downs there with the season, coming back from Tommy John, and it was just a roller coaster year. And then 9, 10, 11, 12 in winter ball, I went to Venezuela. So I was down there playing against just a ton of major leaguers. It was just fantastic. And 2010, I was back in organized baseball with the Dodgers in AAA, and that's kind of where it was. I ended up calling it quits in January 2013.
That is an incredible journey. The emotions, I mean, like, I just listened to you speak, and it's just hard not to draw. I mean, I thought I had a little bit with 2 major league organizations, and then also a spring training with a third, and the ups and downs of being moved, to certain levels, or to just be outright released. And then the feeling of, your agent's like, hey, report here. You're going to get signed by the Orioles. And I'm back. And, you're like, you're on the bottom, and then all of a sudden you're back on top. And then it's just, it's what a crazy journey that you experienced for all those years. You started with the Rule 5 draft. I think for the listeners out there, that's not something that comes up a lot on the show. So can you explain what is a Rule 5 draft to the kids down here?
Yeah. So the basic understanding is if you are not protected, which means if the organization did not put you on the 40-man roster, there is a draft where basically any team can select you and just take you from the team. But what happens with that is when you're selected, you either have to make the major league team or you have to be offered back to the organization you were previously with. And with there's a monetary fine or a payment as well. So that's what it was. And it was shocking because I was older. And when that did happen, I was like, that's bizarre, and because usually happens with really young prospects. But for some reason, San Diego saw something in me and they grabbed me, and I was very thankful. And for the opportunity, again, got to play with Hall of Famer Trevor Hoffman. It's just it's just really cool. So that happened, and then just off I went.
And then what gets created from this, you manifest this baseball mind that's so unique. You're one of the great baseball minds in the area, to me, in the country. And now that you came to that decision to hang him up in 2013, did you decide at that point that you really wanted to pursue staying in the game by coaching? You had all this knowledge, all this experience, or did that take a little time to develop?
It was interesting because I had the opportunity to go to the Tournament Stars in Cary, North Carolina for Team USA and just work there for a week. Again, met a lot of great people out there. And then one of the other coaches just said, hey, University of San Francisco is looking for a pitching coach. Would you be interested? I'm like, sure. So that's just kind of how it all went through the interview process and ended up getting a job up there. And again, it was life-changing for the family, for me, and just trying to understand that whole landscape of coaching at that level. I mean, I'm so super thankful for a Division I job, which is pretty amazing. And then the successes we had, the players are amazing to me. And that's one thing I think I learned throughout my playing career is that developing just true relationships with players just brings out so much more, such a better experience. Because I look back at my career, the years I really struggled were the years I didn't have the good relationships with my pitching coach or whatever that situation was. But my best years were the years I had great seasons because I had the relationships with the coach. And so throughout my coaching now, that's my number one goal: create genuine, real, authentic relationships with these players individually. Everyone's different. And so for me is being able to learn who they are. They need to help me learn who they are so I can help them understand who they are and help them with their progress. And that's stuck with me. And that's one thing I'll never let go because, again, through my own failures. And so being at San Francisco, I still talk to those young men today, and just checking in on how they're doing, and a lot of great relationships there, even with the parents. And there's a lot of really good people out there, and it's just nice to be a part of it.
Yeah, I remember when you took that job, and we tried to connect a couple times on some guys that we were seeing out here. And then you got the Reds job, and you started working your way up the Reds organization, which was exciting. I was excited for you. You're back in professional baseball. How many years did you coach on the professional side?
7 years. So in 2016, I got the job with the Reds, went to 16, 17. So I stayed through extended spring training, and then went to Billings, Montana, which is a short season. And then from there,
I never got a chance to play in Billings, but when I was in Stockton, people that had played in Billings, everyone said it was like one of the funnest times. Was Billings pretty cool
really
situation?
Cool. Yeah. Just the lay of the land, the lifestyle, everything's just slower. If the speed limit's 35, you're going 35. It's just what it was. Everyone, pickup trucks, just out in the wilderness. It was really, really cool. Some unbelievable food, the wildlife coming through West Yellowstone from Arizona. It was beautiful.
Nice.
The one thing that I would say that'd just be tough to live there is just because of the harsh winters. That's it. But besides that, I mean, I don't see any other place in the world where you'll find just the beauty of like the Montana in that area. It's gorgeous.
That's so cool. So I interrupted. Continue.
Yeah, no. Then 18 and 19, I was in Dayton, Ohio, and with just another great experience. The fan base of being sold out more than any other professional organization, even the Dallas Mavericks. It's like they've held this streak of being sold out for how many years, and Mark Cuban has always like, dang it, Dayton Dragons, why is this happening? So they do such a great job there. So I was there for 2 years again, the players, and I'm kind of I had Hunter Green 2017, and I took him to Dayton. Then we kind of just started going and moving forward with him, and then next thing you know, it's COVID. We're at home, and I'm scheduled to be a AA pitching coach in Chattanooga. Well, nothing happened there. But then 21 and 22, I became the AAA pitching coach in Louisville. And that's where I had Hunter, and then Nick Lodolo, the Graham Ashcrafts, all the guys you see now in the Major League staff that are doing their thing, being very successful. So I was happy just to get to know them, be a part of that in their development, and just along with a number of other pitchers, being able to just work with Luis Castillo and Sonny Grades, like those guys, they're so cool and they're so good at what they do, and learning from them. So if I can take any information and pass it on to another pitcher, just perspective wise, it's just, and it gets, I think also for my own good, just try, what kind of person I want to be, and how to lead that, and to, number one, take care of my family, and to help these young men achieve their goals.
Well, it was really fun, too, that Hunter Green was even on campus here a couple times, working out and throwing with you back on the turf field in front of the cages and things like that. Little known fact for some of you newer to CVCS, Seth was part of the Capistrano baseball organization. We kind of brought him in as a freelancer in the off seasons, and he was working with a lot of our high school pitchers and some of the younger 7th and 8th grade pitchers when he was home and in town for a few months. And that was a nice thing that we had going there for a few years. And then you would report back to spring training, and you'd be gone for 6 or 7 months, and then we'd do it all over again. And so finally, I remember when we were talking on the phone about you starting to make some considerations of getting out of the pro side and back to the amateur side. And before I know it, you're applying to some jobs, and you're a finalist to be the head coach at USC. That did not happen, but you ended up being asked to come on as a coach. What year was that, and how did that all develop?
So that was actually in the summer of 22. So I was in AAA in Louisville, and the whole interview process was going on. There's a lot of talk, lists coming out of potential candidates for a head coaching job, and I saw my name on one, and people started calling me, and it was interesting. It's an interesting path, and just kind of how the events all unrolled, and as things kind of narrowed, and I was off the list, and then they ended up hiring Andy Stankiewicz, who I met through USA Baseball. And I just called to congratulate him and just saying, hey, if he's looking for a pitching coach, I'd be interested to talk. And it kind of just manifested into, talking and interviewing, and I ended up getting the job. And just, for me, it was at the point where being in AAA with the Reds, I loved everything about it. But I think for me, it was more, I get to bring my family home. And my wife is a USC alumni. I'm alumni. And it was just one of those things that, for me at that point in my life, to go home, have my family be grounded in their home, get situated with church, and my daughter in the arts and things like that, and my 2 little boys being able to be at home sleeping in their own beds. So it was just the right decision at the time. And, it was great to drive cross country, going home, and knowing that our friends and family would be at home.
Yeah, and you've always been such a great family man, and I could see that weighing on you, being gone for months and months away from California, and the kind of stress that it puts on your kids and things like that. But it was really cool to have you back. I thought that was exciting, and then you actually linked up with Andrew Johnson. We had you come out. You had already known him for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it became real. We're looking at recruiting him. He was having some great seasons here for us. I heard he just had a great fall for USC this freshman fall, and hey, let's just hope that he could even just have a touch of what you were able to do at USC, and that's going to be pretty darn good. But Andrew is a good one, and that's somebody that you had a chance to help, just have a trajectory for him a little bit, and all the other names you've been talking about. It's just so exciting that you were able to just kind of put your personal touch, learn their process. How important for these young kids that are listening, now that you've talked about your personal experience and then now coaching with other kids, not everyone is cookie cut. So you have a a process, you have a routine. What are things that you learned that are pretty much a guarantee that everyone should be doing? There's got to be a couple things where everyone should be doing. And then what is also that process that's unique to just you? How do you find that?
Sure. Yeah, no, those are good questions. I think the one thing where most collegiates, coaches, they can't do anything about are the grades. We cannot help you. Like, admissions is a totally separate animal that you guys have to do the work in high school. You got to get it done. Hey, we can get you admitted, then we can start doing our thing. In terms of what you can do in terms of the baseball side of things, being on the field, the strength, the mental side of things, man, you got to be, what I'm looking for is the best athletic mover. Athletes who are well-versed in other sports, for me, because that's kind of what I did. And it's just, I know what it did, what it helped me with in terms of understanding my own body, how to make adjustments, the feel of things. The well-rounded athletes, for me, are the easiest to develop and to coach. I think because they have such a good awareness of their own body and their mindset that they will make adjustments pretty easy. The aptitude is really high. Now, how do I seek that out? I kind of just watch them do their thing, even in stretch, and how they go through their motions. Not necessarily just watching pitchers play catch. It's not that. It's how are they catching the ball? How's their footwork? How under control are they? Are they spazzy? Are they smooth through the ball? They understand how to do certain things that come kind of natural, so to speak. Then obviously for me, it's just watching the arm path. But again, I look for guys who have a ceiling to reach in terms of height. You got to look at the parents. That's one thing I've always been told. Oh, you got to look at the parents. That's something that they can probably be like. Height, broad shoulders. We're looking at something that, the hardest thing for scouts to do is look at him and say, how can I project this guy? That's a really tough job because you just don't know. You're trying to predict the future. But that's why I think the personal side comes in, where if you really recruit someone, you need to know this person. And that's, for me, like, let's talk about Andrew Johnson. I already knew this young man. I watched one about his work. I knew his family. I knew his mindset. I knew how he did his business. You gave me a lot of information on him as well. It's like, I need guys that I know they're going to be 100% committed, that really want to be a major leaguer. That's what I'm looking for. How dedicated are you? Are you really good in the classroom? Because the direct correlation from classroom to the ball field is very, very similar. The best in the classroom are usually the best in the ball field. And, for Andrew, he checked all the boxes I was looking for.
Yeah.
Really good athlete, really good person. I've worked with him. I knew how he worked. And that's kind of how that process goes. And he's one of my first commits. And because I knew exactly who he was and what I wanted and what I'm looking for. And,
Well, I remember we talked, just listening to you, like the 8th, 9th grade years, we talked about the free and easy arm action, the arm path. And then we talked about mom and dad. I was like, his grandma are like 6'1", 6'2" ladies. And I was like, this guy's going to be tall. He's going to be big. He's going to end up having some serious downward tilt with that free and easy arm path. And then of course he got it done in the classroom. And I agree with you. I also think that the character on and off too.
No doubt about it.
There's guys who seem super coachable and respectful on the field in between the lines, but then you hear that they're rude to their teachers and they're rude to the lunch lady and things like that. And you'd be surprised. I know, we just had Josh Randall drafted for alumni in the 3rd round this past draft. But when he was a senior in high school, unfortunately, he took a back injury, so he didn't pitch an inning his senior year, but was really trending and potentially going in the first few rounds out of high school. And the number of people that were calling and forget skill set, it was like, that's already established. Wanting to know how he conducted himself off the field, how he treated, not just like the principal or the headmaster, but how he talked to a lunch lady or the ladies at the stop signs, or just wanted to know what kind of character that they're dealing with. And it's so important. And I hope you guys listen to this. Like, just try to be a really good person.
Yes.
And then if you're a good person, you're probably going to be a good teammate with good character. And then of course the other stuff will start to kind of take care of itself. That's really, really valuable. So I have a question for you. And this is kind of just back to college days and off topic. You were All-American 3 times. Where do you keep the All-American plaques? Are they in your home? Are they in the garage? Are they under some boxes?
They're in some bins, yeah, they're just in bins. That's right now for me, it's God, it's my family, and taking care of them. That's what it is. It's great to have the awards back in the day, but now, my priorities are so much different. And, I think it's at one time when my youngest boys are old enough, I can break them out and show them.
Okay.
Your dad was okay back in the day. I could throw strikes. So, but yeah, it's just, I'm approaching 50 years old, and just my priorities are so different now. And, my wife and I are going on 23 years of marriage, and
Beautiful.
4 children, and we're just so thankful and blessed to be able to stay here in Southern California, and that's kind of where it leads us to this next chapter of our lives. Where are we going? What are we doing? And but we know, and I know, there's our faith and everything that we have going for us in our life. We're so thankful, and we're just trying to be good servants and just great people and just loving each other. That's
so well answered. I do hope, though, eventually maybe I'll have to come over and get in the garage and help you dust those off and put them somewhere, because those are just so neat, and I think your kids are going to enjoy looking at that as they get older and appreciate just how good you really were. Another question I have for you is back to the big leagues as a player. Who do you remember facing that you just felt was the most formidable?
Gary Sheffield.
Oh,
something about him, I faced Barry Bonds, and he's terrifying too, but something about the bat waggle, snapping the head forward as he's getting ready to swing, the leg lift, I was like, oh my gosh. And I had the opportunity to face him at Dodger Stadium that rookie year, and man, he almost hit one out of the stadium. It was pretty awesome. Realistically, it was like a 2-iron.
The bat speed was real.
Oh gosh. And he swung so hard, and it was beautiful to watch. And but yeah, that's one guy, and I had so much respect for him, and being in that position to actually pitch against someone like that. And that's one guy I look at, and I just remember being on the mountain going, cool. Oh my gosh, this guy is an absolute monster.
Talk about intent to do damage.
Yes.
You know what I love too is everyone's different. You got smooth, free, and easy swings like a Ken Griffey Jr. We talked about. Gary Sheffield looked like he just absolutely gripped and ripped and wanted to swing 110% with everything he got. But whether it's Griffey or whether it's Gary Sheffield, they both kept their chin down in the zone really long. And so you could just tell, there's different ways to do it, but there's also some similarities. And
yeah, to each his own. I think the one thing, I talk about time in terms of professional baseball. Now we talk about timing in terms of playing the game. It's all timing. Pitching, it's getting your hand on time. Hitting is getting on time. It's just, but there's different pathways for everyone. And that's why you're only going to be your own best pitching coach. You're only going to be your own best hitting coach, because only you can feel what you feel and think what you think, and there's certain techniques. I believe there's certain things from the pitching side that need to be accomplished in a delivery. But besides that, you need to be unique, and you need to be able to have the athleticism and feel your way through certain things to get on time. And once you do that, it's a beautiful thing. And I think one thing to put in perspective is Gary Sheffield is one guy in the world that could do what he did. And it's like, gosh darn it. You don't see anyone be able to hit like that anymore. You don't see the Barry Bonds. You just don't see. Shohei Ohtani is one guy in the world can do what he does. So as much as everyone wants to be like them, it's great to want to be like them, but you can't do what they do. It's just what it is. You can't emulate exactly what they're doing, except what they're actually doing is being on time.
That's really great point. I love that. So I want to ask you about an influence. For me personally, I know you mentioned Tim Neri. He was always really good to me when I was in spring training and in the Reds. I thought I connected a little better with Freddie Benavides at that time. He was our infield roamer at that point. I hear he's still with the Reds and doing well. And then I know when I was in college, Scott Southard, I had great coaches in college at Southeast Missouri State. Mark Wazakowski recruited me over there. Mark Hogan was the head guy. Still enjoy catching up with him a couple times a year. But Scott Southard, who was an assistant hitting coach, fielding coach, he had a cup of coffee with the Marlins in the early mid-90s, played at South Alabama University. And I thought he was probably, other than my father, the most influential coach I ever had. From a lot of different perspectives, fielding, like footwork and approach and how my body should look and feel, the decisions that I make, whether to go athletic on the run or to stay set up and step and throw, talking about hitting and approach. And I mean, it was just really, like I said, besides my father, probably the most influential coach I've ever had. With the journey that you had, there might be more than one, but is there a couple guys that just stand out to you that, man, I really connected with them? I took some valuable nuggets that just kind of stayed with me forever.
Sure. I think, I've just taken little pieces here and there from unbelievable people. You look back, I can go back to Dana Hills, and Bob Canary talked about punctuality and organization. It's like, whoa, that's a key point in my life that I need to understand and do. So he was great. And, I'm sure I'm going to forget a couple of people, but you get into college, it's like Mike Gillespie, just an absolute legend, and how it's like he did it in such a respectful way that he demanded respect. Because everyone just wanted to do the best for him because they cared so much, and how he went about it and what he expected of you and how he always had your back. Even though I was a pitcher, I wasn't around him a ton, but just in terms of the game, watching that, John Savage, still a very, very close friend of mine, just helped me along with certain aspects of a delivery or some mindset things, some processes. Then you get into pro ball. Wow, I remember my first full season in Erie, Pennsylvania, is with Howie Gershberg. He's since passed, but just an older gentleman who really tried to simplify everything. And that's, for me, that's one of the things from my coaching side now, is just having these players understand how simple this can be. And that's what Howie did for me. Then you get into the big leagues. I had Bud Black as my first major league pitching coach. And so Bud, so I say, hey, Seth, what do you got? He's just easy going, like just having a good time. And that's one thing I had to take from, hey, it's baseball. We got to have a good time with this. So how can I be simple? How can I do what I know is best for me? And how can I just have a great time doing it? And then, little nuggets. A lot of times you learn a lot of things from teammates, because I probably, because you feel the most comfortable with them. They're actually in the war with you, like going to battle each day. Just trying to compete. So you kind of do that a lot. There are a number of those guys out there as well. So yeah, it's just, there's a number of influences out there. To really pinpoint one, I really.
Okay. You answered that beautifully. It's fun to listen to just the different people who you've connected with over those years. So what would you say to the young players that are listening? You've been a college coach at USF, then you sandwiched 7 years of professional coaching in there, and then you were at USC. So you're looking at like a 8 or 9 year buffer from being a Division I coach to being a Division I coach again. Uh-huh. How much did the recruiting process sort of change, and what would you recommend to kids who are juniors and seniors now that are, big, strong, or fast, and like they feel like they're very good high school players, but they're just not getting the phone calls or getting the looks that they were hoping for?
Yeah, I think the one thing is don't panic. Please don't panic. Coaches are always out there looking for the best player. Trust yourself, trust your processes. If you haven't had the processes of what you're doing to make yourself play at the best ability that you could possibly do, then you got to find that way. If you're not big enough, then get bigger. If you're not fast enough, get fast. There's certain things that you got to do. And if you don't know what it is, then pretty good chance you're not having the coaches that are caring about you. But most likely, I would say everyone knows, to be honest with you, where they're lacking. You just got to be honest with yourself. And that's one thing for me coming up, that between my junior and senior years, like I just wasn't big enough and strong enough. So what can I do? And I looked at myself in the mirror like, dude, I need to get going here. So that's what I did. And so being recruited like that, not getting the phone calls, as frustrating as it can be, you're not in a hurry. and the landscape of college baseball, it's wild. It's completely wild. The NLIs are gone. NILs are full impact, especially with these Power 4 schools. It's going to be interesting to see how this landscape changes with the increase of scholarships, how many they're going to allow per university. I'm scared for mid-majors. See what happens there. Those, especially without the football teams that are supporting, the athletic department with their money. So it's going to be very, very interesting. It's. I wouldn't shy away from the junior college route either, because that's where a lot of these schools are going to dive into. The guys who have experience, who are going to be a little older, and then you're going to bring in 2 years of eligibility. So that cycle of playing veteran guys all the time could be a platform for these schools, because they can get guys who have experience, especially in Southern California, that play great baseball, that maybe haven't hit their growth spurt, that aren't strong enough yet, but they have 2 years experience with their schooling done. Now they start getting some just gems out of the junior college side of things. And then obviously with the transfer portal, I mean, good luck. It's sad. It really is, because there's not a sense of loyalty anymore. When you go to a school now, you can leave without penalty. And it's sad. It really is sad, because there's a lot of work that's done on both ends. The coaches do a ton of work to recruit you, get you there, and the players do a ton of work to get recruited. So now where's the loyalty? How's it all work? And obviously some situations just don't work where it's not compatible. I understand. But to leave just to chase the next thing, that's where it gets really tough, because these SECs, ACCs that have the big NIL stuff, it's very enticing. It is. And I get it. It's just that's
you look back at our days. I mean, you went 4 years to USC. I went 4 years to Southeast Missouri State. Those things just don't seem to happen as much anymore. I also get it too. I mean, if this was, today's climate 20 plus years ago, an All-American year I had in 2001 at Southeast Missouri State, all of a sudden Ole Miss or Arkansas offer me $100,000 to come over and play second base for them. I could see where that gets. I mean, I want to be loyal, but I don't. And that's where you're saying the mid majors. We're already, schools that are mid majors like Southeast. I mean, we're already kind of competing with one arm tied behind our back, and now they're basically going to handcuff both arms and put one of our legs tied up. Too. It's just going to be really, really tough for them to navigate. And at what point do we just call it what it is? I think the Power 4 conferences need to just become independent, minor league. Pro baseball.
Yeah, amateurism is going to be gone.
Yeah.
They're going to be treated like professionals, and that's a sad thing, because the purity of it, the winning aspect, now it's just chasing money. But I get it. I get it. It's just the landscape. It's the fault of those in charge.
Yeah. Well, now kids have to adapt and pivot, and so junior college is a great option. Going to a smaller division. I was watching NCAA, regional, super regionals last year, and I saw UConn was in the supers, and they had 3 of their first 5 batters in the lineup had previously been All-American Division III kids, and they brought them in for 1 year, and they're 23 years old, kind of super seniors, but that just shows you that the schools are starting to value the life experience, the baseball experience.
Exactly.
Even if it's not coming from a mid-major Division I, it could be a Division II or III school. The physicality of being 22, 23, 24 years old, probably not going to miss your cutoff. You're probably not going to, miss a bunt. You've just been around a little bit longer, even though there's a great 17, 18-year-old at the local high school that has tons of potential. They're really looking for proven more than potential now.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be the number of high school athletes taken, or it's just going to lessen. They're still going to be your blue chip guys that are just can't miss. They're going to be fantastic, but they are going to look for experience, and they're going to look for guys because you can't afford to lose. That's basically what it is. They're paying these players enough to where they can't lose.
Yeah.
So
the pressure is real.
Yep.
But I love it. Don't panic, guys. Just keep with the grind. Find your process that works. Get bigger, get stronger, get faster, get mentally tough.
Yes. Use your resources, please.
You use especially here in Southern California, right?
Absolutely.
Call Seth Etherton if you need to. You're a pitching guy, one of the best pitching guys in the country. And then don't be afraid to go to that that smaller institution and go show that you're an all-conference, all-American stud over there, and then you can portal to, that school that you were dreaming for after you've proven that you could do it at the collegiate level, even if it's a little bit smaller.
If you're good enough, you'll be found.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even though the draft is a little bit, there's less rounds than there used to be. If you're still that special arm in the Division 2 or 3 ranks, someone's going to find you.
100%.
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time here, and I want to get to the Players Want to Know segment. So we're going to look at some kids send in some questions. Hopefully I don't throw you too off guard here.
That's great.
But we'll see what the kids are saying. We'll start with a junior infielder. He's actually a utility player for us, Dylan DeMontesquieu. He would like to know, Seth, how did you mentally prepare for your games?
Ooh. Well, I think a lot of it came – it's kind of a mixed bag. It came with the physical side as well, making sure I was eating properly, getting enough sleep, hydrating, all the things that you guys all know. Mentally wise, trusting my process and my practice leading up to it. My work is practice, and if I prepared the right way going into, let's say, a college or Friday night start, if I knew I did the work all the way up to that point and I did everything that I needed to do, that allowed me mentally to trust exactly what I've done. So I walk on that mound that next night or wherever it may be is I'm prepared, I'm a monster, I'm going to beat you. And that's what it was, because all the work prior leading up to it is the main thing. Once the game starts, now you're playing. Now you just let all the hard work play for you. You're not working it, you're playing it.
I love that answer. You get to just keep it simple and have fun because the work has allowed you to revert to – I always tell the guys, in your highest leverage situations, you're going to revert to what your habits are. And if 100%. You've had good habits all week, all month, you're in a high leverage situation, you're probably going to revert back to that.
Right.
And so you just felt really confident that you had put in that work. That's awesome. Senior infielder Heath Carlson. Did you have any superstitions? Ooh, that's a good one. I'll tell you one. I had one. It's a good one, actually. So I just had to have a clean mouth. College, pro ball, 15, 20 minutes for first pitch, I had to go into the locker room, and I just did a great scrubbing and brushed my teeth. I just needed to feel like I had a clean mouth when I was up to bat. I don't know why. Yeah. It kept me away from tobacco. I never chewed or dipped or any of that stuff. Sure. And that was just one weird superstition I had.
No, that's good. Yeah, no, that's clean. I like that. For me, it was to the minute preparation. Like literally, I would know exactly what time before a game. This is where I need to be. This is how I'm doing. I did for this long. I did this way. On to the next thing. This minute, this time. And that's what it was all up till first pitch of the game. That's just what I was. And if I was off, I mentally kind of was like, oh my gosh, how do I do, So it's just, I played mental games with myself that way. But yeah, I think me being as organized and really just, again, that preparation of knowing exactly what my routine is. Routine is probably my superstition.
Wow, okay.
Sure I stuck on
that. So if you had a 7-10 first pitch for a pro ball game, you knew exactly what you were doing at 4:55. You knew what you were doing at 5:30. You knew you were doing at 6:25. Like, that's awesome. Okay. And I play with a few guys like that. Yeah, that's everyone has their process, and that works.
Well, that's the thing. That's part of the process of learning from failures and successes, and that's one thing I try to teach now. It's like, when you're having your greatest day, please write it down. Tell me everything you did the night before, the day of, and everything, because that's your base. That's when you're doing your all-time best. Where were you mentally? What'd you just those things. So when you do fail, you can look back and go, oh, I didn't do this. So you just start developing this routine of habits and priorities that you need to do, and it just evolves into something that you just own.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually something new we're trying at CVCS Baseball, that in January we're starting this. Every week we're going to take 10 or 15 minutes of a practice time and write down 2 things that we felt were really good about our process that week and 1 thing that we could work on. And you write it down, it becomes real, right?
No doubt. That's it.
That's really cool. Okay, another senior corner infielder, corner outfielder, Jack Gallo. He would like to know, Seth, what was the bigger jump, high school to college or college to professional baseball?
I think the biggest eye-opener for me was high school to college, because you go from that point, me being 17 years old facing 22-year-olds. So that was a little, oh my gosh, okay. Then from collegiate to professional, that's really tough too, because you're playing against some of the best players in the world. And, if for my circumstance, going straight to AA, you're playing against top prospects of every organization. So they could be, 23, 24. And so it's kind of around my age-ish. But, wow, that's a really tough question to answer. I think for me, just because I was so young at the time, I didn't have the success against older players, I think from high school to college.
Okay, great. Thank you for that question, Jack Gallo. We're going to go to our last question here. This is a sophomore corner infielder, Hunter Thalkin. He would like to know, Coach Seth, where is an instance or a time that your confidence helped you become resilient? Wow, good question, Hunter Thalkin.
Again, I think it's the preparation. If you prepare yourself, you do everything you need to do, and it's finding that pattern or those routines to develop that to become resilient. That's being, again, you're going to fail at this game. You're going to fail, and you're going to fail a lot. And just being able to take those failures and learn from them and try to repeat them. And that's life. You're going to fail at life a lot. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to do stupid things, but you have to learn from them. And knowing and trusting your processes, and knowing and trusting your abilities, and putting the work in. And for me, one thing I've always told myself is I'm not going to let anyone outwork me, whether it be physically or mental. I just couldn't do it because I'm not the biggest guy.
We have that in common, right?
Yeah. It's, and it's just one thing. It's like, I'm going to do more than you, so I'm going to be better than you mentally because I've done more than you. So the resilience comes back to, hey, if I fail that day, the next day I'm going to work harder and harder, because the next time I know I'm going to be in a better spot mentally and physically. So the resilience side of things, that's kind of what my whole career's been with all the failures. I mean, coming back from surgeries and things like that. It's people tell you, the Yankees said I'm never going to pitch again, and because I was claimed by them, and they sent me back 3 weeks later, and well, do it now. I am going to pitch again. The next year I got back to the big leagues. So it's just like, just those things that happen. It's like, someone's going to tell you no, well then, you know what? Prove them. Prove them wrong. And that's, it's a mindset. It's a, you try to develop mental toughness and things like that. I think it's tough until you actually have to experience real failure to come back from it.
True that. Skip Schumacher was on in the 3rd episode and talked about manifesting a chip on your shoulder, however that looks. And, I just been such a pleasure having you on, Seth. I think guys that are listening talked a lot about work ethic, talked a lot about trust in the process and finding what that process is, and then really grinding into it. And a lot of how failure, and you can learn from it, be resilient, and then continue to grow. I also think that you could learn from successes too. So don't, when things aren't going right, let's learn from it. But also when things are going right, what can you do to continue that? What was working? Yeah,
exactly.
And I think through everything, I know Seth is such a family man. He's a godly man. You have to have faith. You have to trust. I think that God has a plan for us, and that's the outcome. So all we could do is focus on the smaller details, the process, because the outcome ultimately is out of our hands anyways. It's going to be a God thing.
Yes.
And you have just been such a great example of faith and trust in the Lord. You're a wonderful husband. You're a wonderful father. Seth, you're a great friend. You always have a home here at CVCS. And guys, you just spoke with a 3-time All-American, Conference Player of the Year, a Golden Spikes nominee at USC, and then a guy who played 15 years of professional baseball and is still coaching and is going to continue to just work his magic with the young kids out there and try to help some people go a little further than what we were able to accomplish.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's the plan. What I can do to help.
Thanks so much, Seth.
This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening and stay tuned for more.